On day 132 of the imperial calendar year 1116, Strephon was assassinated by Dolinar. And days later, Lucan came to the throne. Huh. Well, Lucan was, at best, third in line for the throne, yet he ascended to the throne. Today we're going to take a look at the strange circumstances that put Lucan on the throne. Specifically, we're going to look at the Rebellion Sourcebook, and we're going to hear Lucan's story of how his older brother Varian was tragically slain in the aftermath of the assassination, and how he valiantly tried to save his brother and any other witnesses that were in the room. I always love this. I love how this is presented in here. I'm going to take an overview of a couple of pages out of here, which tells Lucan's story, and it's going to tell the story of the only surviving witness. And we're going to take a look at that. I'll even read some of the passages directly out of here, just to get an idea of what exactly was being set up in the Imperium following Dolinar's successful assassination, but failed coup of the Imperium. And it ended up putting the throne in the hands of, let's face it, a madman. So today on page 121, from the Rebellion Sourcebook, Lucan's story. All right, in this leg of the Rebellion overview, I'm not going to be looking at Lucan's faction so much as the way he rose to power. So here we go into the excellent Rebellion Sourcebook. This is available, by the way, on DriveThruRPG by itself or as part of the Far Future Enterprises Megatraveller discs. Or disc or thumb drive. I thoroughly recommend these. These were an important chunk of Traveller history, whether you choose to go through the assassination or not. GURPS famously did not go through the assassination. They went ahead and skipped the assassination and continued the Golden Age. And I have played that way, and I love playing that way, but I also played during the Rebellion and had a lot of fun during the Rebellion. I haven't decided yet where my campaign is going to progress, because there will come a time when the Rebellion will be a thing again, and I haven't decided if I'm going to go with it or not yet. Hopefully Mongoose will give us options. Maybe they'll do one Rebellion storyline and one continuing the Golden Age. I don't know. But that's still many years off anyway. So, let's talk about the twin princes, Varian and Lucan. They are Emperor Strephon's nephews. Their mother, Lydia, was Strephon's younger sister. The twins, born 5 minutes apart in the year 1094, have lived in the imperial palace since their parents' death in 1108. The twins' status as princes was always considered a pleasant convenience. Neither expected to ever ascend the throne. The Elka Halikoi line proceeded through the Grand Princess, who was killed with Strephon, and it bypassed the twins and their branch of the family entirely. Only in the event that Strephon, Iolanthe, the Empress, and Iphigenia, the princess, all died, would the twins be in line for the throne. And that is, of course, what happened. Dolinar's plan to assassinate Strephon necessarily included steps to eliminate any other potential heirs to the throne within the Elka Halikoi line. Dolinar himself would kill Strephon, the Empress Iolanthe, and the Grand Princess Scientia Iphigenia in an audience at the throne room. Dolinar's naval aide would locate and kill Lucan and Varian wherever they were in the palace. Dolinar's seneschal was prepared to find and kill the Empress and the Grand Princess if they did not attend the audience. The Eilish Guard, deliberately stocked with soldiers loyal to Dolinar, would seize control of the palace. If the plan worked perfectly, the imperial palace would be in Dolinar's hands by the end of the day. There would be no immediate heirs to the throne to contest Dolinar's claim. The new era of enlightenment and prosperity would dawn on the Third Imperium. That was Dolinar's plan. And then once he had the physical palace and the literal Iridium throne in his possession, his ultimate plan was to go ahead and have the Moot ratify him as the new emperor. Unfortunately for Dolinar, he had to flee the capital right after his assassination and was not able to sit on the throne for more than a few seconds. This, of course, led to the entire rebellion. And here's the plan to eliminate the twin princes. Some facts are known. 5 people were with the twin princes in their apartments just before the assassination. Varian and Lucan, those are the princes. Elia, Varian's female acquaintance, an armed bodyguard with standard assignment, and Sub-Lieutenant Trace Windhoek, an Imperial Navy intelligence officer helping plan an upcoming excursion. The apartments themselves consist of a large central room with several adjoining private rooms. A sunken center area, plush furniture, and numerous doorways made the whole complex ideal for lavish parties. Dolinor's naval aide, Sub-Lieutenant Volante Impre, located the whereabouts of Lucan and Varian in the complex, and at the appointed time he called on the two of them. Security cameras recorded his actions as he entered at precisely 15:17, which is the exact time that Strephon was being assassinated. Security cameras inside the twin princes' apartments, like most security cameras in living areas for the imperial family, do not feed directly to a central recording and monitoring station. Instead of feeding to a central recording and monitoring station, they have an image cassette. I love that they have cassettes that must be physically removed from the cameras to be scanned. This is for privacy's sake, so you'd have to actually take the step to pull the cassette. I think they meant to say recording crystal, and to view what's going on in the private areas. Note the cameras do not feed alarm and exception signals to monitoring guard stations, so no way to know what's really happening in the case of emergency in one of the private apartments. The cameras and their cassettes inside the Twin Princes apartments were destroyed in the ensuing violence. I love cassettes. The Twin Princes were known to be arguing loudly just prior to the assassination. A guard passing in the corridor heard the exchange when the door of the complex was opened momentarily. The twins were known to periodically have loud, heated arguments. What happened in those minutes after the naval aide entered the apartments has been a matter of widespread conjecture, with a wide variety of speculation being made. Lucan has made a public statement. Varian, Elia, and the bodyguard and Impre are dead. Windhoek at this time has not been apprehended. So now we get to Lucan's story. Lucan's story was released as a prepared statement by the Imperial Office of Information on 133/11/16. That's the day after the assassination. It has been widely disseminated throughout the Imperium. The Day of Terror began ordinarily enough. Lucan and Varian were preparing for their series of courtesy visits and audiences that generally characterize their usual day at the palace. In other words, they were just royal wastrels. A wide variety of guests and callers began to appear in mid-afternoon. When Impre burst into the twin princes' apartments, he tripped on a loose rug. His pistol discharged as he fell, killing the only guard in the room. It says a guard in the room, but the only guard in the room. Both Lucan and Varian dove for cover immediately. Elia or Elia, I don't know how to say, I'll say Elia. Elia froze for a moment and then collapsed with fright. Windhoek began grappling with Lucan, who at first Lucan thought it was a gallant naval officer trying to protect him. When Windhoek's hands wrapped around Lucan's throat, he realized there were two assassins in the room. Lucan struggled and managed to knock Windhoek out. Oh, wow, what a guy. During that time, Impre recovered and fired a few more wild shots, then began stalking the two princes. While Impre searched the room's alcoves and recesses, Lucan hid quietly beneath the bed. As soon as he had a chance, Lucan dashed for the dead guard and snapped up his SMG, his submachine gun. Calling to Varian to, quote, run for it, he waited until he heard a door slam. That slam later turned out to be Windhoek leaving, then stood up and sprayed the assassin with 9mm slugs. Then he, too, dashed out of the room. By this time, the alarms could be heard sounding all over the palace. Strephon was dead. Dolinor was on the video screens claiming the throne. Marine guards came in and took charge of the emergency situation, hustling Lucan off to safety immediately. The twin princes' apartments were cleared by Marine guards later. There they found 4 bodies. The naval aide, who was killed by a 9mm slug to the head. That would be Impre. The guard, who was never named. Varian and Elia. These 3 all dead from 7mm slugs. That would be from the submachine gun. The assassin had gotten Varian before Lucan could save him. Windhoek is still missing. What a guy! He took on that armed guy all by himself and yelled for his brother to run for it. What a guy! And then we have Windhoek's story. Windhoek's story was transcribed privately by a computer information agency in Inarli in Quarter Sector. It has been widely disseminated throughout the Imperium. Windhoek was assigned to coordinate routine protocol on an excursion the twin princes were scheduled to undertake later in the year. His duties amounted to carefully filling out a questionnaire dealing with the prince's preference for environment, food, drink, entertainment, and comfort. The The process was expected to take about an hour. Windhoek arrived slightly before 1500 hours. As he entered, he heard heated words being exchanged between Varian and Lucan. From what he can hear, Lucan was apparently distressed because Elia had decided to leave Lucan and become Varian's female acquaintance. Windhoek waited uncomfortably in the main doorway until the exchange ended. Meanwhile, Sub-Lieutenant Impre, who was Dolinar's man, arrived. Because Windhoek and Impre knew each other, they exchanged pleasantries while they waited. When the naval aide burst into the twins' prince's apartment, he started firing immediately, forcing everyone, Lucan, Varia, Elia, and a guard in the room, to dive for cover. The guard responded with a hail of slugs, one of which killed Impre. As the four stood over the dead body, wondering about why this had happened, the video screens flashed coverage of Dolinar's assassination of Strephon, then in progress. Lucan realized the potential of the situation immediately. He quietly picked up the assassin's pistol and calmly shot the submachine gun-armed guard. Shot him first, and then Varian, and then Elia, and last took a shot at Windhoek. Naturally enough, Windhoek evacuated the situation and realized the danger quickly enough to flee before he was killed. Catching the coverage of Strephon's assassination as he ran down the halls, Windhoek knew immediately that his life was effectively forfeit. He then made his way directly to the administrative offices, already in an uproar, and just stood around looking important. Eventually, after about 10 minutes, a naval commander grabbed Windhoek's shoulder and told him to personally carry a bundle of orders to the Aircraft Operations Center, sealing the palace off. Windhoek took 2 Marines with him and made his way down 20 floors. He reached the Aircraft Operations Center without incident. Strangely, it seemed to be operating normally during the crisis. Some officers stood around acting numb, but no one was doing anything out of the ordinary. Windhoek decided to take advantage of the situation. He did not deliver the orders to seal off the palace and the Aircraft Operations Center. Instead, he joined a party of 3 naval officers, gave orders to his Marine companions to go on a wild goose chase, and commandeered an aircraft. I like to think that he actually told them to go look for wild geese. The 4 of them then flew down to the Naval Command Center complex located underground directly beneath the palace, below the palace. From there, he made his way to the starport, made use of a computer terminal to write/forge himself some orders, and boarded an Imperial Lines type TJ cruiser bound for the Imperial border, hoping to live long enough to reach it. Within a few weeks, he had switched ships 4 times and used every trick that naval intelligence had ever taught him, hoping against hope that a young naval lieutenant could hold out against what must be the whole Imperium chasing him. Which story is true? Only 2 men alive. Only 2 men alive? No. Interestingly, the fact that Windhoek was given the orders to close off, to go to the Aircraft Operations Center and close off the palace, and never delivered those orders, absolutely contributed to Dolinar's being able to leave the palace, because Dolinar's guards go ahead and they blockade themselves in other parts of the palace, and it seems as if Dolinar's in there with them, so they're fighting a holding action, and that lasts about 2 days until finally the Imperial forces break through Dolinar's guards and find out Dolinar was not there. But during the 20 minutes or so that Windhoek didn't deliver those orders, Dolinar was making decisions about leaving the palace. So it's entirely possible that Windhoek not delivering those orders allowed Dolinar to escape. I just think that's an interesting ramification of this story. Now, the other part of this that I love is, of course, I know which version I believe, and I believe Windhoek. I believe that Varian, Elia, and the guard were all killed by Lucan, and the only witness left alive was left alive by misfortune as Windhoek ran for it. I enjoyed this. I like the idea of the way Lucan came to the throne. I like the idea that he painted himself as this hard-fisted fighting hero trying to save his brother, and really he probably murdered his brother for the throne. Very Roman flavor to this, which is, of course, I think what the authors were going for. I love Windhoek's story. My only regret with the Windhoek story is they never really followed it up. When I was researching this, I looked up Windhoek just to see if anything had ever been done, and nothing really had. So that's an unfinished bit of business. We know he made it to Corridor, which means presumably he was going through Corridor, outrunning news of the assassination as best he could, and trying to get into the Spinward Marches. I love the idea that Windhoek is still out there and still has a story to tell. It's unfortunate that Megatraveller never followed it up. It doesn't say who wrote this actual section. It just says the design is by Mark Miller, and then it gives Frank Chadwick, Joe D. Fugati Jr., Gary Thomas, John Myers, Ed Edwards, Mike Mikish, Greg Giles, and Jefferson Schweikhofer as the various authors in different parts of the book. So we don't know who wrote this, but I really think a nice job was done on this. It built a nice flavor of intrigue. We've got some nice illustrations to show what's going on in the situation. And suddenly someone who's never been trained to actually rule is sitting on the throne. He gets ratified by the moot a few days later. Actually, I don't know if he gets ratified by the moot. I'll have to do research on that because he ends up disbanding the moot because they are disputing his story, his claim to the throne. I'll touch on that when I do Lucan's entire video. So there you have it. There you have the assassination in part 1. Part 2, we have Lucan's story of how he ascended the throne. In the next step, I will be starting to take a look at the various factions and what activities they engage in and how their various actions change the Imperium and make things very difficult for everyone. Dalinor's 4 shots killed billions. And it's an interesting thing to think about, that 4 bullets killed billions of Sophons. And yet that's what happens in the official Traveller universe. So there we have it. That's all I've got today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. And give me some feedback on this if you want the series to keep going. And I'll see you next time.